Hey everybody, Bob Adams. It is 5 o'clock Pacific time on the 15th of November. It's time for our webinar. I'm so grateful to be here tonight. I mean, there's a lot of work that went into this presentation. Most people don't realize that making a PowerPoint for this much information has taken me like 5 days to get it done, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it all with you. Tony will be on board with us here in just a few minutes. He's got some information to share, and then I've got a whole bunch of information to share. And then at the end, we'll have our opportunities for questions and answers. So before we get started, hopefully you can see the screen there. This is the MaxPlans for Life presentation for today. And here's the agenda. First of all, you're welcome. Tony's going to be talking here just a few minutes. He's going to cover the current state of affairs. I'm going to jump in and talk about our IQD preparation, decision-making, upgrading your investing, rocket and rich a little bit, and an invitation for a Thursday webinar. I know most of you don't know about that, but that's kind of on purpose. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and step out of the way because I really want to get Tony in here and let him share what he's got. Tony, are you there? Hey, Tony, star 6, Tony. Hey, Tony, star 6. I know he's here. I just talked to him.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. All right, guy, it's all yours.
Thanks, Bob. I'm going to answer questions. Basically, I'll be getting through email, so it does have to do with the state of affairs. Remember, I'm going to be talking a lot about the markets, how they're shifting, what's going on. But the end, our goal is, how does it affect Iraq and its currency? What are the odds? What are the chances? What's coming down the road? And just before I get started, you guys, I haven't seen anything negative. There's nothing going to stop it. All right? Question of timing and all that stuff is always out there, but there's nothing. Iraq wants to add value to the currency, and there's more than one path to do that. So the questions I've been getting specifically has to do with, you guys, it's a myriad of ways to angle this. Because people are asking, I sent a lot of you guys I've been telling you guys to watch Peter Zahn. It's Zion, actually, but everybody says his name differently. But, and he's talking about how the markets are breaking up, how we built the Bretton Woods system, how we built the Trilateral Commission and its entire trade system, NATO, and it's being broken up. Well, it is, but it isn't. So people don't realize that when we built the Bretton Woods system, it was a system where the United States was on top and we guaranteed worldwide trade. So what is the United States and what is our propaganda? What is it that, how do we promote democracy? We promote democracy through trade. So if you want to be part of our systems, then it specifically has to do with trade. Open up trade, and then we'll help you figure it out. It's that easy, all right? So because of World War II and the devastation that went on in Europe, they couldn't compete against us. Before, they competed against us. Or we competed against them, I should say, because we came in a lot later than, these European countries. But that's over with, all right? Like I've been telling people that within the Trilateral Commission, within the Bretton Woods system, the markets, if you look at where's the influence coming from the left, like specifically Biden and Obama, a lot of Americans are confused, even people from the left. It's like, where is this motivation coming from on how they figure out policy? It's coming from Europe. It's coming from Europe. Europe wants to be the seat of power. And so that's it. So you look at the old days where you have Europe and you have England versus France versus Germany versus England or Spain. Well, what they did is like, if we can unite, we can rule the world, because we basically created the world markets based on deep sea tech. All the European countries were part of all that. The only reason that would stop Europe from ruling the world was they've broken up into pieces. They're always fighting each other. So that's what their aim is. Their aim is to unite Europe and to control the world from Europe. And it's the same model that the United States is using. It's like, how do you become part of that system? you become part of that system through trade, and then Europe will back you. All right? So people don't realize that that's what's going on. The Bretton Woods system is breaking apart. We're still going to keep NATO, but the markets are changing. Europe is going to, if you notice in the news lately, Europe has announced that they're going to create their own army. It's a very small one. It's like 8,000 reactionary forces, stuff like that. But they're starting to separate from NATO and the United States. That doesn't mean NATO is going away, you guys. We created NATO. NATO's a line of defense, a first layer of defense against the USSR. And there's no need to get rid of it. So all this shit coming from the far right and all that stuff, we don't need NATO. Yes, we do need NATO. We just need NATO to pay their fair share. That was it. That was the only issue. There's no reason to talk about getting rid of NATO. All right? So, but from the market perspective, if you go back and you look at why we were in Iraq and we control those energy markets and stuff like that, now that Europe is competing against us, remember, we went in the first Gulf War, it was a coalition. The second Gulf War, it wasn't. Why? Because they knew the United States was taking over that region or had control of those energy markets. And now that everything has kind of come into play where the markets are breaking up, the global order is breaking up, now it means something, doesn't it? Now the Americans are smart because everything that our enemies could use to compete against us, whether it's population, manpower, resources, right? Well, we've got it all boxed up. And so now people are starting to see what we did, all the crap coming through the media and the speculation, why we did this, how we did it, and all that stuff. Now you see why. All right, so we're still on top. But what happened is broken up. And so what the United States has done is we've created a new market system. That's why England broke away from the EU, is because they didn't want to be part of their system. They wanted to be part of the American system. And we're creating that's where you have AUKUS and the Quads. And we created a military alliance that's going to protect. There's no reason to have a military alliance unless you're protecting something, right? So what is it protecting? It's protecting the potential new markets. So the United States' plan is to recreate the market so there's no internal competition going on between Washington and the European Union, and so we got complete control of it. That's what the Europeans call it, and the Chinese and the Russians call it the Anglosphere. All right, so the world markets are being readjusted. Now here's the kicker, real quick, you guys. That there's a lot of books out there that's talking about this massive end of the world. The markets are going to crash. That's not true. I disagree with every one of those. Are the markets and who controls them and how they work, are they going to shift? Absolutely. Absolutely, they're going to shift. But you have to look at it from this perspective. This is World War III. All right, you're in it. You don't need to wait for it to come. You're in it. What is it? So, why do countries go to war? They go over war for manpower and resources. Well, the way these markets are shifting, it's over manpower and resources. But it's policy, and people just don't see it that way because it's not a kinetic war like they're used to seeing on TV or what, their idea. But World War III is here. So, and who's in competition? United States versus Europe. People don't even know this. They don't even look at it that way. Brexit was United States versus Europe. Where was the English going to go? Because what side of the aisle the English the UK landed on was probably going to be the biggest markets. That doesn't mean Europe was going to fall apart. Everybody's going to die. There's going to be no heat. There's going to be no more BMWs. All that. That's how far it goes. All right. But the markets are going to shift. And so, what does it have to do with Iraq? What does it have to do with the Iraq currency? Well, the Iraqi dinar is based off the U.S. dollar. All right. It's using the U.S. dollar as a base. And that's the type of questions I've been getting. It's like, what if the U.S. dollar falls as the world's main currency? And even though I don't think that's going to happen, but it's a legitimate question. What if it goes to the euro? What if it goes to – well, you guys, if they de-dollarize, then no matter what, they're going to have to add value to their currency. no matter what. Saudi Arabia has lowered its production, and it looks like they're helping the BRICS. The BRICS are trying to reunite. The Russians and the Chinese created BRICS to compete against the Bretton Woods system. They got their asses kicked. It's actually stupid and retarded. And think about it. It's India and all these guys, and they're part of our markets. We completely pull them over to our markets. So that's the problem, is the BRICS want to recreate the markets where they have their version of the Bretton Woods system when nobody wants to do business with them. Not only that, but all the countries that would do business with them don't have the resources and capital to be able to compete against the United States and its markets. Very easy stuff, very easy math. I understand what they're doing. They're doing it for survival. But with all intent and purposes, the way that China runs, how rich it is, it's over. How Russia runs, Russia's 33% of its GDP came out of Europe. It's over. All right, so things are readjusting. And so that's what they don't talk about in the news. They don't talk about this in that context. I don't know if it's because they don't know. Most of them don't know. And if they did, they probably don't want to talk about it anyways. So I noticed that my whole life that the people that know this stuff, very easy stuff, none of it's a secret, they just simply don't talk about it. You're not worthy of it. And so, they base their wealth and ruling over you based on what, they know that you don't know. But the reality is, from a geopolitical perspective, there's more opportunity for Iraq to add value to its currency than there was when we started this. So it's not a negative, it's a positive. All right? Real quick, the cryptocurrency. All right? So I just talked about how Russia and China they're financially in trouble. People just do not realize how big in trouble. Whatever they have in gold reserves, it doesn't matter. They're going to burn through it because they're not making any money. Think about this. China, they have a population problem because of the one-child policy. 2, Trump comes in, puts tariffs on them, all right? And people don't know this. For all you haters out there, and I don't like Biden at all. I don't like him. I don't like his policies. But he introduced the CHIP Act, which completely destroyed China. They can't manufacture the same chips that we do. They can't manufacture the high-end chips that we do. The resources that you have to use, the special type of silicon and all that stuff that you use, comes out of North Carolina. It's the only place on the planet where you can get it. So even if they had the know-how, they still don't have the material. That policy literally shut China down. It's over with. So whatever the moves they're going to make, they're going to have to make it quick. All right? They can't get the high-end chips that you need to run space shuttles and to compete with the United States in the information war. We won that war. So we won the war with Europe when Britain used Brexit. So we recreated that market. And to show you guys an idea of how the game changed, Australia had contracts with France to build nuclear subs, and guess what? Now they're buying them from the United States and Great Britain. So it's completely changed, all right? Next thing you know, you go from, we talked about this before, you go from the hunter-gatherer age, the agricultural age, to the industrial revolution. Now we're in the information revolution, the information age, all right? And who's competing against that? With us in that, it was China. All these high-tech companies coming out of China. So that's why we were after them so much. It's because they were stealing our technology, then competing directly with us with our own technology. And the tariffs and the CHIP Act stopped all that. It's over. We cut them off from their customers. We banned their companies in the United States and Europe because we're the consuming markets on the planet. So positive, 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 positive. And it's disgusting. Bob and I talk about this all the time. There's all these positive things happening for the West, but you hear none of it, you guys. They're so evil in the media, all of them, right, left, middle, moderate. They're so evil. They're so into if it's not a news night if they don't stab somebody in the back. But the reality is, we won the information war. All right, we won the market share war with the EU. Not only that, but COVID. Remember COVID? You got China Joe. Right? There's Joe Biden, China Joe, COVID. They created COVID, and it shut the election down, and that's how Trump lost and all that stuff. And China's still shut down with COVID. It literally, what happened is that China was going to go down anyways, but COVID accelerated it. So in China, there's a big, huge conspiracy thing going on that the West, the United States military, created COVID to shut them down, and it worked. And they know it, and they're pissed. That's how they're talking. I'm not saying that. I'm not suggesting that's what happened. It's still a major problem. China is not is internationally vulnerable because they keep shutting. Right now, they shut their country down because of COVID. Well, wait a minute. I thought that was a big, huge plot in the United States. You guys, I've been traveling around the United States. Nobody's wearing any masks. The markets are fine. I know there's inflation, but that's an energy-based inflation, the cost of energy. And by the way, you guys know I say this all the time. If there's no inflation, you and I would never, ever be able to afford to buy a home. So I love it. When it brings the price of, brings the market down and it stops spending, and it reels in the cheap money sloshing around, that's a good thing for you and me. Let that market reset itself. It's very, very healthy. It's not a negative. It's a positive. Not only that, but we're paying our national debt off at a cheaper rate, a cheaper price. So you have to think, all right? So let's go over this real quick. China's out. The EU's out, competing against us, just competing against us. Russia is out. What's the United States trying to do? The United States is trying to retreat the markets, and we'll invite the same people that were in our markets before. It's not like we're shutting them out, and we're not going to get goods and services from Europe. We're still going to get that. But what we're trying to do is create what's called Fortress America. And so you might want to Google that and read that. There's a lot of opinions about that, but that's what we're trying to create. The Western Hemisphere is the United States, and we rule it. We control it. We don't mind countries doing trade. It's not like we're trying to kick out China or the EU or anybody from doing trade with. But do not mess with the Western Hemisphere. You cheese dicks want to have a World War III, you guys go for it. You guys want to fight over the rimland? The 2/3 of the world population is the rimland? Go for it. Knock yourselves out. But when you're done destroying each other, the only people that are going to be standing is the United States of America. All of them will be destroyed. So you go right ahead and do that. That's what we're thinking about. That's how we think. That's what's going on. The demographic war. We're one of the only countries on the planet where its population is growing. And yes, it does have to do with immigration coming in. So on that subject, real quick, people talk about, the Mexicans and Mexico coming up. The reality is most of the people, the Mexicans that have come to the United States across the border, whether it's legal or illegal, are already here. That number has actually gone down in the last 10 years. What you guys are seeing an influx is from El Salvador, Nicaragua, all these other countries. All right, so you have to kind of put that in perspective. And the reason that we talk about that and we say that is that if you look at the southern counties where there's more of the Spanish-American, Mexican-American demographic, they all voted for Trump. The majority voted for Trump because Mexico doesn't like immigration coming up to their country either. And so they see it as competition. It's like, we want Mexico up here in the United States, but we don't want Guatemalans. We don't want Nicaraguans. That's what's going on. So it's kind of strange. But the United States, what we're looking at is we want to win the demographic war. We want to win the market share war. We want more customers than any other market block that's out there. We want to win the information war. Do you guys see if you look at it from that perspective, we're winning on every single front. So this last election that's been going, you didn't hear any of it. You heard none of that. And I'm so sick and tired of it. I'm just sick and tired of the wrecking ball politics. I want all of them out. The Republicans, the Democrats, I'll always be Republican, but I want it to change. I don't want the Trumpers and all that stuff. I want them gone. If you notice this last election that just happened, nobody from the far left and nobody from the far right got elected. It was right down the middle, and it was the independents. You guys, I have had my finger on this pulse. I know exactly what's going on. All right, the independents usually vote against the sitting presidency, and what happened is it went right down the line this time, 50-50. But it was the moderates. So people were expecting this big, huge Republican wave. I was expecting it. But what happened is the moderates stepped in, and they're like, no, on both sides of the aisle. So that's what you saw. That's what you saw. You saw a very moderate election. So that's the trend. People are getting sick and tired of this radical right and radical left. Both sides are isolationists for different reasons, but it still has the same effect. And people are just getting sick and tired of it. And so that's kind of what happened this last election from the team that I worked with out of Scottsdale. They were showing me the exit polls, stuff like that, and you have all the news media saying the women did this, the women did that, but here's the reality. The Republicans gained in Latino. The Republicans gained in the black vote. The Republicans gained in, the last election, 55% of females voted for Democrats. This time around was only 45%. So Republicans gained in that. Republicans are going to gain in the House. Now they stayed even in the Senate, but that's staying the same thing. That's not a loss. So the Republicans gained in the House. Was it some massive wave? Absolutely not. But if you guys count the last election, how many Republicans won the last election and add it up to this election? You guys, Republicans have gained on every front there is. It's just not as fast and as spectacular as these guys wanted to present it. So I don't see any negative in that. I just don't see it. If people want to stop Biden and his agenda, you only need one of the houses, either the Senate or the Congress. And the Republicans will probably end up taking up the Congress by 5 seats. The Republicans are specifically projected to take over the Congress tomorrow because they only need 1 seat. That's it. Then it's based on the margin on how many seats that they are in the majority. But they're 1 seat behind you guys. I think there's 19 elections yet to be called. The Republicans only need 1 seat, and there's 4 or 5 of them that are pro-Republican, that are favored to be Republican, and there's however many's left in Democrat favor. So those are the odds. That's why you have these ultra-left websites or news agencies saying that the Republicans have actually won the House because they can project, they can see that. But again, the email that I'm getting, and you guys, the reason I'm saying this, I know there's liberals and Democrats in our crowd, but most of the majority of the Denard crowd are conservative, Republican. And I've been getting nothing but negative emails, like, oh my God, I don't see it that way. I don't see anything negative. I don't see anything, we're winning everything. We're winning against our people who want to destroy our markets and take over our markets. We're winning against them. We're winning in the demographic war. If you're Republican, we've gained more seats than we lost by a huge margin, especially if you count the last election. We're taking over. Go look at the map. Go out there and get a color-coded map, blue and red, and look at the Congress, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The whole country's red, except for you have Colorado, California, parts of even Oregon. Oregon, a bunch of Republicans won in Oregon. Who would have thought that? New York. All right, that's a disaster for Democrats in New York. So that's the trend. All right, the United States, as far as a country goes, the trend is going more traditional. From a world stage point of view, the United States is beating everybody. You guys, we're kicking the shit out of everybody. From Iraq and the dinar point of view, Iraq has more options, and they're going to benefit from it hugely. And you and I are sitting on their currency. All right, so there's nothing negative about that happen with Iraq. They're going to have a lot of choices coming up. I personally think that they'll pick the West because the West has the most customers, and that's who they're going to want to do business with. But who knows? What if the market splits? What if they have to choose 2 different systems or maybe even 3? They have the EU system that they want to create. I don't know how they're going to do that because they're going broke. They don't have any energy. They can't get the energy in the Middle East because we have military bases there. Not too shabby, huh? 20 years worth of foresight, and we knew that was coming down the road. Now people are starting to get it. It's not just forever wars, guys. It's not for no reason. It's for a reason. We're trying to stop people from destroying our markets and compete. You have to have energy to actually have these markets work. And we had that our vision, our military, and what we need to do to stop our enemies to compete against us, we stopped them 20 years ahead of time. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. So that's what's going on, in the current affairs from a global perspective from within the United States. You guys, if you can, go out and find as many YouTube videos you can talking about the CHIP Act and how Biden stopped all of the high-tech chips going to China. No longer are we allowed to send any equipment there. Not only that, but people that work in the United States and Belgium and these countries said, if you don't come back to the United States and you're working in an industry in China, you're going to lose your citizenship. All right, that's how big of a deal it is. China's spiraling out of control. I have friends that live in China, and they work in they're Americans, and they're in completely different, their markets, it has to do with plastic. It has nothing to do with chips. But they're watching China spiral out of control. And they said it's unbelievable, it's remarkable, because they thought that China was going to take over. I used to argue with these guys. It's like, how can they take over when we're their customers? We're the one in control of them. Not only that, but most of the factories, think about it. I would tell these guys that I work with, right, are the friends. It's like, you're an American. It's your factory that's in China. It's not a Chinese factory. It's like 40% of the successful factories in China are owned by the West. How are you keep saying that they have the West by the balls? It doesn't make any sense. Well, now they know. Now they get it. Now they understand. But who would have thought? And this is another point, and I'll let Bob get in here, and then I think I'm going to I'll open up for questions in the end. But you have Republicans and Democrats. Are they competing against each other in the United States for control? Absolutely, 100%. The trend is going towards Republican. But you guys, they want the same thing. They want the same markets. All right? So that's why you're seeing policies from Trump that kind of comply with policies from Biden on China. Does it defeat all the conspiracy, the wacko conspiracy, China Joe and all that stuff? Well, China Joe, Joe Biden did business with the Chinese. Hey, cheese sticks, I did business with the Chinese for 20 years. You calling me a traitor? Bullshit. It's a bunch of stupid hicks that don't know what they're talking about, all right? If you just count the policy, get rid of all the emotion, count the policy, the United States is on top of everybody. You guys, it's a very good thing. The next thing, though, is that the recession coming up, as the markets adjust, it's going to disrupt business. It will disrupt business, and it's a 1-2 punch. It's going to be a double-bladed sword on America, because energy prices are going to go up. Hopefully we can stop that. That's not a guaranteed 100%. And at the same time, we're not going to have the customer base that we did. It's going to change. We will get them back. We will get it all back. So that's what you can expect in the United States coming up. So that is going to give you an idea on how to invest. Invest, but invest wisely. One more note, and then I'll let you guys go. I talked about how the market's going to change. China and Russia know they're going to take it in the ass. They know. These guys know they're in trouble. Their number one goal is to get as many American dollars as they can, because that's what helps them pay their bills. It's the U.S. dollar. Well, wait a minute. I thought the U.S. dollar was going to crash. No, these guys are full of shit. All right? 100%. The world's currency that everybody's after right now is the U.S. dollar. We're doing everything we can to keep the value down because everybody wants the U.S. dollar. Having said that, what's China and Russia's strategy to get into the U.S. dollar that, we've put sanctions on them to block them from the U.S. dollar? They're going to try to use Bitcoin and the top cryptocurrencies is what they're going to do. Because nobody can tell them what to do. You can't sanction them. There's no laws. It's impossible. So there's a big, huge surge that's going to happen in certain cryptocurrencies, the big ones, you guys, the ones that don't fall off the edge, like these currencies that are just dropping like flies in these exchange centers. What happened is they created a market, and they got caught, and it was a fiat currency, a true fiat currency. It was backed by nothing. They created a currency. They bought that currency. They had people buy it. That created the market. It created the value, and then people jumped in. That's a fiat currency. United States, the U.S. dollar, if you want a loan, if you want money, what do you got to do? You got to have collateral. So the whole economy backs our currency. Is it the whole value of it? No. Supply times velocity. But what does cryptocurrency have? All right, so you have to look at it when you go and invest in the future. So it's going to be the bigger currencies that are going to survive, and they will be around. But that's what China and Russia, that's what their backdoor strategy to get U.S. dollars is, those cryptocurrencies. So something to watch, all right? Something to watch. The other thing real quick is if you look at all the top richest people on the planet are from the United States, what are they doing? They're buying real estate. Whenever the economy is about to take a big hit, the rich, the elite, they buy real estate. They buy property, all right, because it's a tangible asset. Not only that, but you can never divide it up. You can't create more of it. You just simply can't do it. So it's a safe haven. Something to think about. Something to think about. But I put enough information out there so at the end you guys can ask questions. And with that, Bob, you want to take over?
I'm here. Thank you, Tony.
I'll be here.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it because I got a bunch of stuff to share later on, too, on what we're talking about today. But right now, we're going to jump right back into my ordinary stuff that we get to cover. And I wanted to show this to you. First of all, our IQD investment planning is done. You know, all the steps to reduce, defer, and eliminate taxes on it, they're all ready. Everything is finished. But I wanted to show you something. You see that building on the left-hand side? That is the Central Bank of Iraq in downtown Baghdad. Isn't that just an interesting building? Just fascinating. Okay, now I just got through saying that we pretty much are prepared all the way around. And I've been singing this same song now for, 7 years, ever since Tony and I have been working together. And so you guys know what I'm talking about. So first of all, we've all had an education. Tony just brings more education into the whole thing every time we get together. We understand the IQD. We understand the geopolitics. We understand the value in researching policies. Okay, we have this education. Most people don't have that. We also understand taxes. We know how the IRS is going to treat this increase. We know it's going to be ordinary income. It's not going to be capital gains. Okay, but the other thing let's take a look at is the retirement accounts. Now I'm going to pause here for just a moment. I know that Tony's got through sharing with you about how much Republicans still have to gain, in the House, Senate, and the whole range that's in there. One of the things I want to tell you about, in a previous presentation, I talked about the Green Book, which is a whole series of policies that Biden has created that they want to put into play, which will just vastly change our entire tax scene. Now, I don't think it's going to come into play. Most of the professionals I've talked to so far, attorneys and CPAs, all kind of say, no, I don't think that'll come to fruition. I don't think they got enough votes to get it through. I don't know either. But I will tell you this much. If it does come to fruition, if they do manage to pass some of those things on, I will tell you, okay, because it's going to change how we handle things, what we do with this. Basically, it's going to stay all the same. The one that's the most ugly that we're going to have to deal with is the estate taxes. Now, we already know that those are going to sunset in 2026, 2025. It's going to drop back down to $7 million. Instead of being at the $12 million that it's at right now. And if the Democrats get more control and if they manage to push their agenda all the way through, it'll drop down to 3.5. So that's going to change a lot of the things that we're going to have to do in our estate planning. This is where the CRUT comes into play, is where the gifting assignments come into play, all of those things. So the estate taxes is the big ugly duck. Now, there's one more ugly duck that I want to tell you about. One of the things that they want to apply is a surcharge. So anybody who makes over, say, $100 million, something along that line, they want to assess another 3% and then another 4% above that. So when we get down to the end of this, if it does come to fruition at a rate that we believe it's going to come to fruition, there's going to be people here that's going to be facing the potentiality that that tax is going to hit them in the face. This is why I've been telling you, keep it at $400,000. That stays within the safe zone. You know, you're not going to pay such an exceeding amount of surcharge on these taxes. The next thing is, we all realize that we can get this thing tax-free. That's the beauty of having the Roth and being able to put that IQD into it. All right? And we have two ways of doing it. One is with the precious metal Roth, which we all know about. And I like the precious metal Roth only because you can't screw it up. The other one is the one-member LLC, self-directed IRA, which is great to add a whole bunch of other features into it, but it's a double-edged sword. And if you make a mistake in it, you could lose the whole thing. And then finally, the CRUT. You know, the more I played with this silly thing, the CRUT, the more I really have grown to love it, because being able to create a way of exchanging our IQD, have a guaranteed payment for the rest of your life, and then creating that private foundation and moving those funds into that private foundation so that your heirs can go on with it for multiple generations. So all of these plans we have put together, they are ready, which means we are ready. Now, if you're still in a situation where you have questions about it, obviously you can make an appointment with me. So the next thing we run into is, so where do we go from here? Now, you got to remember, first of all, you've purchased your ticket to this IQD ride. Tony said that. I've said it. It's true. We bought it. Okay, we've packed up. We're prepared for the ride. We've got all of these things in place that we need to have to make sure that we get the most results out of what we're doing. And all we're doing is we're waiting for the whistle. We are just simply waiting, and waiting. Now, in the last presentation, I talked to you about, and while we're waiting, what can we do? So Tony's brought it up. I brought it up. Literally, this is a shoebox investment. This is one where it's static. It sits there. We've done all the work that needs to be done to it. It needs to be just put aside and held there, just left alone. So now what I want to do is I want to talk to you about MaxPlans for Life, which will continue. MaxPlans is still here. It's not going to go anywhere. Continue to provide the resource and information for the members and our attendees. Okay, that's it. And if you're still working on your tax plans for the IQD, you can always make an appointment with me. There'll be a link, you know, in the email that's going to go out, and also on the YouTube channel to make an appointment with me. I'd be glad to visit with you about it. I enjoy my conversations immensely, you know, but it is time to get this thing done, put it aside, and move on. Now, I put this page in here because I wanted you to guess what. First of all, you're not alone in this situation. I'm here too. And that's a good-looking picture. It's 12 years old, but oh well, that's me. You know, and for the past 16 years, I've held on to my IQD, and fortunately, I've had great advice and assistance from well-qualified professionals, essentially from all over the United States, in preparing for my tax and personal options so I can take the full benefit of this thing when it comes to fruition. And for the last 7 years, I've been working with Tony, you know, sharing our joint perspectives and assisting others to continue to prepare for this event. Well, I have a birthday coming up next month. I'll be 71 years old. I still have a hard time accepting that. I keep telling my wife we've got to change the mirrors. They're lying to us. But guess what? They're not. I am. I'll be 71 years old. I never believed I would get to this age, but here I am. I know my IQD is all set. I'm done with that thing. It's ready to rock and roll, okay? And I've laid some funds aside to take care of me for the future. But what I really want to do is I want to step into this new space that's coming, this fourth industrial revolution that Tony's talked about, I've talked about. It's real. It's very, very real. And it's come about to us very, very quickly. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But there's something else I want to share with you that's really important. And it's just more of a psychological thing than anything else. But I want you to be aware of it. And it's called decision making. And I've titled it, It's an Art. Okay, you remember, of course, in Matrix, the red pill, blue pill, they look different than that. But this is a good picture. It still gives you the idea. We are always at choice, constantly. Every thought we have is a choice. Every action we take is a choice. We decide for ourselves what we're going to do. We can be happy, we can be sad, we can be mad, we can be all the different things. It's always a choice. So decision making, you know, it's not always that easy to do. Okay, and we have to really look at the problems and then some potential solutions for it, and then we choose the best option that's possible. Now, this is the key to successful living. Okay, it's overcoming the blocks and the fears, which can be kind of scary, and the results can be very liberating, though, not only financially but emotionally as well. So I want you to think about this for a moment. We're going to go talk about decision making. So as I took a look at this, I know that there are problems that have a tendency to hinder some of our decision making. And so I want to cover those. I just want you to look at them, think about them for a little bit. Number one, not enough information. So it's really difficult to make a decision if you don't have a solid basis to look at. The second one, which I run into people that have this really bad, okay, too much information. They have analysis paralysis. You know, it's too analytic for them, okay? They get lost looking at all the different things that are there, and pretty soon they're running in circles and they're not getting anything accomplished. The next one is there's too many people involved. So when you start working with people and you take a look at something and you seek a whole bunch of different pieces of advice, sometimes it can be just so totally distracting you get lost. The other one, I thought this one was really interesting, and it's your vested interest. And it's the core of your beliefs can create certain insecurities. Emotional attachments. This is attached to the status quo. Now, as we get older, like 71, okay, getting attached to the status quo is not uncommon. I have a routine when I get up in the morning, and I'll be danged if I'm going to break that routine, okay? Otherwise, my life doesn't feel fulfilled. I got to get up and do these things, all right? But once in a while, we get stuck into that thing, and we don't see that we are stuck. The next one is no emotional attachment, and this is where you don't care one way or another, and that can completely hinder clarity on what it is the problem you're looking at. Fear. What would it be like if you weren't afraid? I have these two phrases that I use a lot in my coaching. False evidence appearing real, or else forget everything and run. This is the two emotions, that one and greed. I'm losing out and I want it all. So these problems make themselves evident whenever we are facing a decision. Now, most of the time people will say, no, I don't have that. Yeah, you do. You do. And our minds move so quickly, and they're conditioned. We are conditioned. And so we have all these filters put in place to the point where we can't move sometimes. We just simply cannot move. And so my invitation is, when you have something sitting in front of you that has to do with making a decision, or something new that's sitting there, realize that these things are running the game. Your beliefs live your life. Now, there's 3 easy steps to decision making, and I use these. Number 1 is to gather knowledge. So you gather all the information that's relevant to the problem that you're facing. You search all your available resources, and you seek professional input. You've heard me say, when this thing comes to fruition, how many to go talk to? CPAs, attorneys, financial planners. You seek input. The next thing you do is you list the possibilities. Now, I'm going to say this. I know all of you already know this, but I'm going to repeat it. Listen to your thinking. You actually already know the answer. It's just all those other thoughts, of the ones I showed you before, get in the way. They get in the way. And the way that I get around those is by doing this. I list out my pros and cons to each one. I read it several times. Then it just becomes very obvious. That's the answer. It's the one that sings to you. It's the one that you know. And then I call it do your decision. I also call it a token effort. This is the first step you take. So you can explain to those that are around you that might be affected by your decision. You tolerate the fear of making a mistake. Okay? And you acknowledge the anxiety inherent with decision making, and then you take that first step. You take that first step. That's really important. So deciding is more emotional than actual. The fear of failure reigns for most people. All right? I love this picture. I found it. I've used it lots of different places and different times because I've caught myself in both of those situations, in both of them, where you carry this burden that you have on your shoulders. I call it a mantle instead of all these boxes. Look like pizza boxes. Yeah, I failed my diet. Actuality, when you carry all those things around with you, you begin to get to the point where you see only failure and you stop living. And so decision making always comes with a risk. But if you don't make a decision, you leave yourself to go whatever comes, whatever happens, and you don't live your life one more time. So worrying about what others may think of you or your decisions is a massive burden for you to carry. I invite you to look at this. What others think of you is their business. It's not yours. It's their business. So my invitation is, don't be afraid. Just keep going. All right, we're going to go play now in the fourth industrial revolution. I did this first part because I want you to realize you're going to be sitting in a position to be making some decisions. Why? It's inevitable. There's no escaping it. You cannot get away from this thing. It is here. For the last several months, I've been playing around in this fourth industrial revolution intelligence part, and it's been amazing, absolutely amazing, the things that I have found that I'm able to do now that I didn't know I could do. And it makes everything so much easier. So let's take a look at what the definition of it is. It's the current and developing environment in which disruptive technologies and trends, such as the Internet of Things, IoT, robotics, virtual reality, VR, and artificial intelligence, AI, are changing the way modern people live and work. Oftentimes, I do this when I'm traveling with my wife in particular. Gee, what would my grandparents think if they could see us now as I pull out the phone and pull up the maps and make my calls and do all kinds of stuff? You know, gee, they would really think this is not the same world. Our living standards are so much better. You know, health is better, longer lifetimes, better job possibilities, more benefits, television, computers, cell phones, credit cards, cryptocurrencies. Holy crap! It is so much different. And you take a look at it, you say, gee, how far back was that? Not that far back. Not that far back. So if you start taking a look at what has happened with mankind and going through all these changes, all right? So our previous industrial revolutions liberated mankind, humankind, from animal power and made mass production possible and brought digital capabilities to billions of people. We just sunk thousands of years into one sentence. The fourth industrial revolution is, however, fundamentally different. It's characterized by a range of new technologies that are fusing the physical, digital, and biological worlds, impacting all disciplines, economics and industries, and even challenging the ideas about what it means to be human. How many of you know about the metaverse? Good grief, look at it. There's people that have put in billions of dollars into this electronic digital world. They're selling pictures for massive amounts of money that's digitalized. It is a different, complete domain than what we've ever lived in before. The question about what does it mean to be human? So there are four basic elements in this fourth industrial revolution that you need to be aware of. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've been experiencing it in many ways. And I'm going to talk about those in a little bit more in detail. But I want you to take a look at these four, because these are primarily the things that's changing everything for us. Number one is blockchain. That came out in 2008, somewhere along that line, and holy crap, it has managed to change the world. Blockchain technology, what is it? It's the simplest definition of blockchain suggests that it's a decentralized public ledger, just like you used to use in the old days on paper, that helps us in recording all transactions throughout multiple computers. There's no centralized system here. And that is the key. It's so much faster, it's so much thorough. Next, cryptocurrencies. They're here to stay, guys. A digital currency in which transactions are verified and records maintained by a decentralized system using cryptography rather than by a centralized authority. Now, Tony's got through talking about FTX falling on its ass and filing bankruptcy. There's all kinds of things that went on. Supposedly there was a hack that got all these millions of dollars. People have been trying to buy NFTs in order to save the money that was in there. There's all kinds of things that are going on to it. Well, Tony said it. I've said it. You want to stick with the strongest, the backbone of all of this stuff. All of it, primarily Bitcoin, Ethereum, a few others that are there that are considered to be layer one investments. Cryptocurrencies are here to stay. They are the lifeblood of blockchain technology. Artificial intelligence. Okay, the development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision making, and translation between languages. Let's have some fun for just a minute. I have been watching a lot of things on YouTube, in particular, having to do with the Ukrainian war. It's not so much that I get off on blood. I don't really care to see people get killed or mangled. It's just an interesting thing. I grew up in the military, so it kind of hangs there for me. But what I've learned is if there's a channel that pops up there and it's all in a foreign language, it doesn't matter which one, I can copy that. And I can drop it into Google Translate, and I get it instantly in English. No waiting. It's there. Bang. It's done. Artificial intelligence is also something that I use on a regular basis for doing a lot of things for my work. It does things for me that I don't have to do. It takes a job that's really vast and very long and very difficult and makes it easy. I'll tell you, I have a system now that I use that I can make videos. I can take a storyline, an article or whatever. I can drop it into this particular program, this artificial intelligence. It takes about 1 minute, and it can take 4 pages of information that I fed it and make it into a movie with the primary pictures and videos keying off main words that are in the paragraphs. It also can put it to music. It can also give me 83 different voices to choose from. Artificial intelligence. It's here. This is what it does. It's taking over a lot of things. The same thing with robotics. I recently had a surgery. It was done robotically. Fascinating. And then the last thing, which Tony talked about a lot, is the Internet of Things. This is the interface that's going on, the interconnection via the Internet of computing devices embedded in everyday objects, enabling to send and receive data. You know, we have in our home the Internet. It's being fed to us, and it goes through a router, which has wireless capabilities, so we can be anywhere within a certain range and be able to use it with anything that we have that can connect to it. What people don't realize is that you can connect cameras to it, lights to it, everything. You can turn everything on, turn it all off. As you're traveling, you can check on everything in the house. It can turn the thermostat up when you come home. It can do all these different things. That's the Internet of Things. And within another 20 years, that's going to be commonplace. It's going to be commonplace. Well, what does it mean we have all this stuff going on? What does it mean? It means essentially nothing. I got a spam risk call. How exciting! Okay, I wish that artificial intelligence could take care of that for me. All right, so we're facing these changes. It's here. Only we know about it, and we can take advantage of its being developed. As it's being developed, we can step into it. There's never been a time. I mean, seriously, it's time for all of us to rethink our future. I'm telling you, I'm almost 71. I'm excited about the stuff that's coming here. Okay? I think it's great. Now, I want to talk about the sovereign individual. Tony's been espousing this book like forever. Okay? And I finally broke down, got it. Okay? And, yeah, it's quite interesting. This here's just a little detail on it. It jumps into the future and presents a new world where life moves into the online environment, where cyber economy rules and governments are struggling to control people like they used to, all through a revolution more powerful than anything we've ever seen before. Now, Tony's recommended it. I'm recommended it. If you haven't read it yet, you can actually find it as a PDF version on the Internet, in case you can't find it. I found it at the library. You know, it's available all kinds of places. Now, here's what I got out of it. First of all, this was written back in 1997. Okay, and it projected change in societies and governments and corporations, and especially money. Okay, that really was things emphasized the most. Now, I'm not saying this book is the entire future of the world being predicted here, but using history and these fast-paced changes in technology, as well as education, and the changes in mindsets, especially regarding the need for military intervention and war, the trends do seem to be holding true. I personally am finding, and maybe it's just because I'm getting old, I don't enjoy watching death anymore. I used to hunt and fish and all the kind of fun things I do with my kids. I don't enjoy it anymore. I don't like seeing suffering in any way, shape, or form. And the whole world is migrating this direction, where the intersection of needing to use war in the way that it's being done in Ukraine and Russia at the moment is going to cease. It's not going to exist anymore because the general public doesn't want it anymore. There's no reason to have it anymore. As we're drifting further away from nation states into private individual abilities, that need is going away. Now, one of the most important aspects is the change is how the world is going to see money. How many times has Tony said we're going to see a huge influx in the next decade? It's true. Now, previously, money was created to accommodate commerce. It was just easier to do money than to haul stuff all over the place. But it eventually became the focus from the center of expansion ideas by nation states. Now, we are accustomed to banks, accounts, standard retirement accounts, options available by the government and our employers. The way to make money was by working, planning for retirement, investing in standard fare, and our beloved Social Security, and maybe a gold watch. Maybe. Today, the entire financial world is changing due to artificial intelligence and blockchain technology, and obviously the creation of digital currencies. Now, while this technology is being applied to all aspects of our lives, its currently greatest effect is in financial. I'm going to show you that tonight in what it does in the world of finances. So let's take a look. Let's see what's gone on since 2003. Now, I picked this date because it was a start date for IQD. That was just for kicks and giggles, okay? I want to show you 4 different aspects of our commerce. And I want you to notice something specifically. Here's Dow Jones. Look at it from 2003 to where it's at now. Why is it that high? How about NASDAQ? Why is it that high? How about Bitcoin? Holy crap, 6,000% gain on that silly puppy. 6,000. And then, look at this one. This is my favorite one. E-commerce. You notice all the rest of them got this great big dive and they went down, and you notice that e-commerce doesn't. It doesn't. We're going to talk about that too. So a lot of people, a lot of investors consider the IQD as the one and only option for their retirement. But what we really need is to embrace all these changes, these options. We need to get a handle on your budget. Diversify your investment options. Use artificial intelligence to increase your investment returns, and start looking at getting into e-commerce. It's a very economical way to profit from your experiences and your interest. Now, before you go wacko and say, but Bob, I have nothing to sell. Well, let me show you something. All right. First of all, it's time to rethink your financial world. It's a decision, and we can join in and participate, or we can watch the rest of the world grow without you. It's entirely up to you. It's a decision. It's a decision. Do I want to step in and do something more? Is there something here that can give me more personal financial security than what I'm doing on my own at the moment? Now, there hasn't been an opportunity like this in decades, maybe even centuries. So in conjunction with this new money exposure, there's artificial intelligence applications that can actually monitor your investment activities and perform routine purchases and sales of stock, forex, and cryptocurrencies. Now, I learned a lot about this in the last little while, the last 6 months, 8 months, something along that line, watching what artificial intelligence does in this particular market. What can it do? How can we get into it? There are current apps that perform ordinary budgetary functions for you. There's apps that will automatically balance your investment portfolios. There's apps for accessing all of your financial resources, bank accounts, exchanges, stocks, bonds, literally any financial institution and resource, and reporting instantly for immediate access and security. Okay, pause here for a second. I know that a lot of people that are on this call are guys. I want to talk to the wives for just a moment. women think different than we do, in case you hadn't noticed. They really have a lot of love and security that's in their world that they like to bring to the table, and it's what they do. That's why we love them so much. But one of the things that a lot of them have is an insecurity about what happens if my husband dies. Now, sure, there's a will, and there's all that types of things, but do they know how to get into and get all access to everything that you're involved in? There's a program, an app, that can do all of that, that's going to give you all of those resources. It's instantaneous. There's now crypto raw service with no initial monthly or annual fees. There are free apps that can notify you of the ups and downs in the market based on your own parameters. I'm using one right now. It's really cool. Purchasing stocks, forex, and crypto can be done with just a singular resource. You do not have to go out and search and find the best places to do it. The current world has access to everyone, everywhere, anytime, and is changing the very nature of humanity, let alone finances. Everything's changing. So, in June of this year, you might remember it, I announced in a webinar that there would be changes coming. Okay? It's not so much just the focus entirely on the IQD. I have loved everybody here, and I have loved sharing what it is that I have been able to accomplish and the resources and connections that I have in order to get everybody ready for the IQD to come to fruition. But I was sitting here watching the world go by. And how can you have conversations with Tony and not know that things are happening? Okay? So I knew that things were changing. So I invested some time because I wanted to figure things out. Now, the IQD investment is potentially a large windfall, about 1,000% increase, somewhere like that. But it's painfully obvious there isn't a clear date on the horizon. We don't know what it is. And those funds that are tied up in there are essentially what we call static. They're just holding. They're just it. That's right there. Now, all this time that I've been dedicating to the IQD investment, literally ignoring what's been going on around us. And since 2008, technology's been growing exponentially. You know what that word means? That means double, triple on itself. It's just growing so fast, so fast. Bitcoin, it came out. You remember what the price was when it first came out? I think it was like as low as a quarter, okay? Boomed all the way to $60,000 last November, a year from now, in the past. Okay, it just boomed. And it really came out just like a mouse that roared. It just set the world on high. There were millionaires that were created essentially overnight. And 50% of the world population now owns Bitcoin as part of their investment. Now, in addition to the digital growth, e-commerce has grown tremendously. So shopping online greatly increased during COVID, well, obviously, because we couldn't go anywhere. And people are realizing an online presence is more important than standard means of communicating and marketing. Yeah, I still hate texting. So everybody tries to text to my home line. It don't work. So I haven't just been idling my time away from the time I made that announcement. So for over a year, I've been exploring and expanding the world of financial opportunities, and I discovered the following. Number one, the previous mindset of working for institutional employment is dying. It is going away. During COVID, where everybody decided to be able to work from home, it changed the face of everything. The ways to make money and secure your financial security are unbounded. You're not stuck. You think you're stuck, but you're not stuck. Working for someone else may offer a short-term security, okay? But in a world now of individual resources, you can literally become millionaires outside the regiment of these old beliefs that we've been hanging on to. So together with Ron Duggar, you've heard me talk about Ron quite a bit, and I really have enjoyed and learned a lot in conjunction working with Ron. We found some great options that can capture what most people are really searching for. There's three things. What are they looking for? Wealth and happiness. So we decided to create Rocket Enrich as a result of these desires, and we're looking for some way to be able to enhance people's lives to help them accomplish those things. So our website, which all of you have been introduced before, offers the resources, the information, the education, and links to what we've determined are legitimate and proven ways to experience the benefit of these new times. So let's take a look at what these are. Number one, health. You know the old adage, if you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything. Remember that on Princess Bride? There was a line that was in there. I really enjoyed that show. Discovering health can be very important at any age. It doesn't matter. So our resources are for optimal health is time-proven and affordable. We have available for members with personal consultations and diet. It's really an awesome connection that we found here. The same thing with happiness. The key to happiness is a personal journey. It has nothing to do with anybody outside of you. And we have the resources to discover these keys and apply them to your everyday life. And that's available for our members with personal consultation in our courses. Now, I want to go into the wealth aspect. I love this picture because wealth is a mindset. It's totally a mindset. If you took 100 millionaires, stripped them of their money, 98 of them would be millionaires again within 2 years. Why? It's a mindset. Their willingness to look, accept, and to embrace. So determining the desire for wealth is part of the game. We can show you how to better create, manage, and invest those money in new financial revolution. So the 3 keys to financial wellness look like this. 1, create income. So you create wealth using the internet with e-commerce. This is just one option. It happens to be my favorite. It's very economical to do. It's rewarding. Okay? And it's easy because we have these fast funnels. Now, I want you to notice, I haven't talked much about investing into cryptocurrencies. Maybe you've asked me, why? Why? Because we have something better. Okay? Cryptocurrencies is still a very volatile market, and even though right now it's down to 16, something along that line, we're expecting it to go down to 12, maybe even all the way to 8, and then it's going to turn around and get caught up in that bull market that's going to go way high again. You still have to watch it and be with it all the time, okay? All this stuff here, to get it done, the work is already finished. We're going to show you. It's all done. You learn to manage your income. You have access to budget programs to meet your personal lifestyles. It's so simpler than the old ways of dividing up your income and putting it into envelopes. Available with an app on your phone and your computer, and it has its own debit card for mastery and spending. And the last one is to invest your income. We have sources for diversified income, not just one. Automatic rebalancing of your investment options, artificial intelligence, Roth accounts that are tax-free gains, and completely fee-free for cryptocurrencies Roths. Now, to assist you on your financial journey, Rocket and Rich has included these options. We have a spending plan module, which is the power of the digital banking with its own cash envelopes type system. We have a portfolio investing module. This is so freaking cool because it has customized pies, which means that there's all kinds of different things that are put in here of different investments, and these were put together by professionals. And so you can use those pies to do your own investing, and they automatically rebalance themselves. That's what the artificial intelligence does. We have an asset tracking module. Remember I was talking to the lovely wives a minute ago. This is that critter right here. This is the one that makes sure everything's under one umbrella, and it's instantaneous to get the information on it. And then lastly, we have some freaking amazing online courses with continuing education on wealth, health, and happiness. Now, I showed this slide to you earlier, those 4 items that are sitting there, and you see the robust way up and then drop, and then way up and then drop, and then there's Bitcoin way up, way down, okay. But e-commerce, if you take a look at e-commerce, it's always managed to stay moving forward. So I'm going to throw a thought on the table. I'm just throwing a thought on the table. I'm just inviting you to think about it, because most people haven't thought about it. Why not consider getting into e-commerce? It seems to be one that has the least amount of volatility. The world is going this direction. Let me show you why. First of all, it is a growing force in the modern economy. We know that, okay? And while the popularity of online shopping was growing prior to 2020, I mean, I was using it earlier than that, But that pandemic, it really increased it exponentially. So it's estimated that through 2020 and 2021, an additional $218.5 billion was added to the e-commerce sales just in the United States due to the pandemic. That's bigger than a lot of countries' entire GDP. And in 2021 alone, e-commerce sales by United States sellers reached a total of $870.78 billion. Now, this was a number they didn't expect to happen until 2023. This is what the pandemic did. So in total, almost $4.9 trillion has been spent worldwide on e-commerce in 2021. And e-commerce, it continues to prove to be a lucrative and a vital part of our future economy. But sectors are already being impacted by the juggernaut differently. By understanding the trends of today, and this is something else we can offer you, we can show you what the trends are. We'll show you what people are interested in. There's a lot more people that are going to be interested in being able to get information that's valuable that could come from you that would be well worth them paying to get from you. We're going to show you, we can show you, how to find that information. What's out there that seems to be what everybody's talking about. We can show you. Okay? So you can do it too. You can be a part of that. All right? And it's just not that hard with the right help. So I want to introduce something to you called e-commerce funnels. First of all, creating a website and all the work manually can be very difficult. I want to share something with you. I made the MaxPlans for Life website. You may have noticed it's changed a lot with time. Why? Because I busted my freaking ass figuring out how to do it. I would spend endless hours watching videos and playing with that thing, trying to get it figured out. And there's a lot of things I still don't know how to do with it. But it took me years to get that thing functioning the way it is even today. Whereas right now, you can get pre-built website and traffic funnels that are easy and extremely economical. The whole thing's built. The website, the capture page, the leads, the opportunity products, we can help you find those too. Follow-up emails, the sales, the whole schmear is in one simple package. So, what can I possibly market on my website? Well, the answer is your skills, your experiences, merchandise of your choosing. It's up to you. Like I said, we can assist you with ideas and options that are easy to do. So, here's what I run into when I have to people and I talk to them about this. I'm too old. We're retired now. But if you understand how to buy IQD, you can create something that's going to add to your retirement and maybe even add years to your life from the health information that we've got available. I'm too busy. I have a full-time job. Well, if you could create a side hustle. Now, how many times have you heard that in the world today? Create a side hustle, a side hustle. It's completely yours. It has nothing to do with your current employer. It's around your knowledge in your instance, and it'll be well worth it to you and your family. You know, I feel really blessed. I get to sit at home and work. I get to talk to people. I get to help. I get to explore things. I get to work on my own, and I love it. I'm too young. I'm still in school. Yeah, really? One of the advantages of being young is how easily you adapt, apply, and learn to earn. You can create a source of income for an early retirement. We see all these videos, people in their 30s that say, hey, I'm retired, look at me, millions of dollars. How'd they do it? They did it with this. They did it with this. I'm going to show you something that I found. This is a little plaque type thing. I like it a lot. I like it so much, I'm going to make it one of the centerpieces of all the work that I'm doing. And this is it. When the goal seems too big and the plan looks tough, just start. And soon the next thing you need to do will look possible. Step by step, you can get through anything. I told you earlier, that token step, that's all it takes. A little willingness to say, hey, maybe. it makes all the difference in the world. It changes everything just by the willingness to do something. The world's changing, and with change comes opportunity. So I'm inviting you to attend another webinar on Thursday. That's the day after tomorrow, by the way, on the 17th. Okay? I'm going to go over more of these details of some of these things that's available so you can get a feel for it. Okay? It'll be about 90 minutes long, something along that line, with a Q&A afterwards. And to attend, you're going to use the same link that you used for this presentation. I will send that link to you again. And Ron and I are really looking forward to sharing all these research results with you. It's really exciting. Now, for those of you who have already become Rocket and Wrench members, congratulations. Everything I just showed you, it's yours. Access to all those things is yours. The courses is yours. You already have them. Now, we are changing our website platform. So Ron's been busting his ass to get that done. I've been busting mine to get this done. And on Thursday, you get to see the results of all the efforts that we put into it. But we have found this really awesome system that everybody can do, and it's just really, really cool. So those of you who have not, at this point in time, elected to join up with MaxPlans, I invite you to go to the website where it says, while we're waiting on MaxPlans, and then go down to the bottom and then select the discount. It's a substantial savings, guys, almost of a couple $100. So I would suggest go do that, and then you get access to everything again. So it's down there at the bottom. It's $99. Okay. Whew. That's a lot to cover. Thank you for hanging in there with me. There's just so much that I wanted you to have. I want you to understand, A, the IQD is in good spots. Tony made sure you got that straight. I've done everything I can. I've sang the same song now for a long, long time. I've done everything I can to make sure that everybody who's willing to make a decision to do something on the IQD has done it. Have done it. That's been really important to me, extremely important. Tony knows how important it is to me. Okay? But it's also just as important to me now for you to understand the world's changed, and we can get in on it, and we can do really well in it. It just has to be a willingness. And so Ron and I have spent a lot of time researching, trying to find the things that would work best, particularly for us older people who only look old in the mirror, who don't want to accept it, who fight this aging thing tooth and nail. That's me. All right, we're going to questions and answers. All right, so here we go. Please leave your phone, computer on mute for the recording. And when you go to ask a question, you can hit *6 on your phone in order to pause it out there, or just simply unmute the microphone that's on your computer face when you're up there. Whoa! Tony jumped back on there. Okay? And then pose your questions either for Tony, Bob, and Ron's on the call this evening too, even though I didn't have him do any kind of presentation at this point in time. And if the background noise is too much, I'm going to mute the other calls just simply so we have a good recording. All right? So if I mute you, understand, it's not because I don't love you. It's just I'm trying to keep things straight again. All right. So before we go on any further, I want to tell everybody, thank you very much for being here. I'm looking forward to the questions and answers. I know that Tony's going to get bombarded because there's so much stuff going on. And the floor is now open. So who wants to go first?
I will. Hey, Bob, is there a replay?
Yeah, John, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a replay for this call?
Of course there is. There always is.
All right. I missed half of it, so that's great,
That's
brother.
okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I always send it out with there'll be a whole bunch of emails going out from lots of different places to make sure everybody gets access. It'll also be on my YouTube channel. So It'll be there. Okay, John?
Thanks, brother.
You betcha, bro. All right, who's next?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Dandra, how are you, bro?
Good, good. How y'all doing?
We're excellent. So who's your question for?
Good. Well, Bob, first I'm going to say I got to make an appointment with you soon. Tony, want to ask you, first off, just thanks again for keeping us updated. I had actually got out of tune with the NARS stuff, so I wanted to ask you, according to your information and what you gathered up to date now, I know last year you sent out that email, I think it was in December, like great year ahead for Iraq. I know recently the only thing I saw that seemed like they made a good move was they finally got completed with their government. Um, what is the language coming out now as far as not no date and rate or anything, but I'm thinking this year is almost over with. So what that great year ahead for Iraq? I mean, what that might have been in reference to, or how we looking now?
Yeah, basically what it was how the markets were turning out at the beginning of the year. Obviously, it's accelerated, and everything has changed a lot since February, since the Russians invaded Ukraine. All right, so the problem is that people get concentrated on Russia and China, but what they're forgetting is that there's also competition between the EU and the United States. All right, so all of this was accelerated. So you have to look at, how does Iraq, which is part of OPEC, how do they participate in the markets? How can they add value to their currency? How can they add value to the currency if they're not attached to the U.S. dollar? And I'm not suggesting that they'll ever detach. You know what I mean? So a lot of opportunity is open up for them. But they have the most valuable commodity on the planet. Still. All right?
Okay.
So what are they going to back up their, the United States, we back up our dollar with the United States economy. Anything that you can use collateral to get a loan, we create a money supply. All right? What do they back their currency up with? Let's say if they get up the U.S. dollar. It's oil.
Right.
So, it's not going away. It's going to be, what's coming down the road is an energy inflation. All right? And I hate to say this, but everybody's going to pay out of the nose. It's not going to be good as far as on the wallet. Now, the reason I say it's going to be good in the long run is because nobody can outspend us. Nobody has what we have. So it's going to destroy our competition. Okay. That's what I mean by World War III. But Iraq, they're sitting on the most valuable currency or a commodity on the planet, and they got plenty of it.
Okay.
So, there's no negative coming for Iraq. They one way or the other, they're set up.
Okay.
They're going to add value to the currency.
Okay. So I know, like I caught a little bit of the last. I actually listened on YouTube. I know, Bob, you even went into towards the end of encouraging folks to invest in crypto, which I did anyway. But you were saying that it was something you said that stuck out to me. You said it's a potential to gain more than an IQD, and you said even if some of you decide to sell some and then get more into the crypto. So I never heard you say that before. So with that, do you or Tony, y'all see the possibility that, hey, we could be in this as far as for the RQD, for the dinar concern, we could be into this for another year or two before they add value?
It's difficult to say when this is going to have any kind of fruition notice. I mean, we've been in it now for 2 decades, okay?
Right.
It's a long time to be playing around in one particular investment. And we know that the bank has been very careful about maintaining it. One of the first conversations I had with Tony, interestingly enough, was that he asked me, what do you think about CBI controlling the value of the IQD? I didn't have a freaking clue what he was talking about, okay? But the more I watch it, the more I realize they sell oil. How do they get paid? They don't get paid in dinar. They get paid in dollars, okay?
Right.
So they've got an abundance of money sitting there. So why have they kept the value so low? Well, in some cases, when governments have a big debt they got to pay, they just print more money, and they go that route. But that's not what they did. They just simply changed the value so that it had more value to be able to put it out there to handle the indebtedness. When COVID came into play, they were putting out $3.5 billion a month in paying people's wages and retirement accounts. When that happened and when the value of oil dropped as far as it did, they had to actually borrow money from the bank in order to meet that requirement. Now, they were smart enough to hold on to it and keep it in a way where the value still stayed where it was at. I know this sounds really insane, guys, but it's true. They really monitored it well. They kept it in place very well in order to control things. The value of the IQD, it just sits there. If you look at the history, if you saw the history of the IQD, you'd realize that back in 1971, somewhere along that line, it was clear up there to 322. It was way up there. And after the war came into play, it dropped clear down to 3,000 for a single dollar. I mean, it was just an immense change, huge, vast change. It's always been their goal to get it back up there, to get it to where it has value again. And the bank isn't going to come out and say, oh, yeah, we're going to do that. This is really cool, guys. That's not what they do. They keep saying, nope, no, we're not going to do anything. We keep our mouth shut. This is what it looks like. And we go from there. Tony, I know you're dying to say something here. Go ahead.
Yeah, and real quick, I'm going to say this, too, before Tony ends it. I actually saw that, Bob. I did the history on that. Mm-hmm. And, yep, I saw that back in 1971.
Yep.
You know, yeah, I actually did the research on that. But, no, I was just asking. Yeah, I was just asking, too, because I'm going to be, obviously, I'm on this call because I don't understand every article that come out, Tony. Yep. And I noticed you, like I said, I know you cleared a lot of things because, like I said, when I first got into this, it was people saying stuff that was to sound weird, NDAs, they not going to do this. And,
no, none of that.
And when I ran across Tony's webinar on YouTube back in 15 or 16, I said, okay, this is a good investment.
Yep.
But so it's just that I don't, like I've seen the recent articles, their reserves have been built up. And so how's that significant too, Tony? I think, Bob, you just touched on it, but how does that play a significant role too, Tony, in their value?
Yeah.
All right, Tony, jump in.
The problem is that most of the articles out there are bunk. They're not coming from the CBI. It's you guys, it's just like, you know, the news in the United States. If you go out there, you can find news that, let's say, you know, who's going to win the presidency coming up. You're going to find a news station somewhere that's going to, you know, be off the wall. It's going to pick somebody out of nowhere. And people, when they read every article from Iraq, that's what they're doing. If you read what the CBI is stating, they've always talked about how they're going to add value to the currency. Always. 100%. You know what I mean? So it's not been back and forth. It's not been up and down. It's not been, you know, but if they're making so much money, so much U.S. dollars off the U.S. dollars in the markets, it's got to be a big deal to change it. All right? The people at the top, the government's not going broke, and they divert that money down to the Iraqi dinar. So the next question is, well, why would they revalue? Why would they add that? Because they're restricted. They're simply restricted. And so they need to add value to their currency so they can gain even more value. All right? There's only so many markets that, there's only so many, you know, the energy markets are like that, but there's military equipment they can't buy with the U.S. dollar. There's, you know, and if the United States puts some type of sanction on a country, they have to follow it. Why? Because they're completely attached to the U.S. dollar. So there's all these incentives to get out of, partially, if not fully, out of the dollar. Okay. And that's what they want to do. So that's it. You know, people ask questions from different angles and stuff like that, and I get that. I appreciate that. But none of that's the reality. Iraq wants control of their country. And then you have Iran, right? And people are like, well, Iran, you know, they want to run. No, they don't. They want Iraq to get off the U.S. dollar. They want to hurt the U.S. dollar. They're competing against the U.S. dollar, so they definitely want Iraq off the U.S. dollar. They want OPEC out of the U.S. dollar. Okay. So how do they do that? They add value to the currency. So nobody's against it. There is no weird scenario where people are against it, or you know, it's a question of taking advantage of the markets and the way that they work. And that's what I was talking about earlier. That, you know, instead of having one world system that we have now, you know, it's going to break up into three parts. It'll break up into three main parts, and Russia and China will end up probably falling out because they won't be able to maintain it without Western ingenuity and consumerism. They're not, you can't preach communism on one side and then tell everybody to go buy something on the other side. Now, how's that work? That's exactly what the Chinese are doing. You can't start a business and be a dick to every customer that walks in a door. That's what China's been doing. All right, so it's not a cheap labor factor for them. They've literally it's the most insane thing that I've ever seen. If you really start looking at it, they completely run themselves. So guess what? It's going to narrow down for Iraq to be attached to the Western markets again. It'll be United States and Western Europe, and eventually those two markets will merge because we're going to want to buy BMWs, and they're going to want to, they need corn and potatoes and all that stuff, and they're going to want our agriculture back and forth. They're going to want our chips, So the market's not going to go away or anything like that, but that's what Iraq is looking at. That's what's in front of them. How do we do this? How do we add value to our currency and then not piss off America, but still be part of their markets? And they have patience and they're willing to do that because they're not going broke. One of the questions that people always, it's like, well, how, everybody's broke in Iraq. No, they're not. Everything's proportioned to the value of what that's at a tenth of a penny. So everything's priced to that. And what backs that up is the U.S. dollar. What backs that up, it's selling energy. But they're going to get out of it. They're simply going to get out of it. And the way that the markets are breaking up, it's an opportunity for Iraq to be that much more independent. The Sunni and the Shia both agree on that end. It's just who's going to control it.
All right, and one last question.
That's what's coming down the road. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. One last question.
Bob, can you hear me? Bob, can you hear me?
Yeah, I had myself muted.
I'd like to chime in just for a minute on that question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You've heard of what they call a secondary market. So like the stock exchanges here and around the world, that's a secondary market. It's where buyers and sellers are establishing price based on, what a buyer's willing to pay for it right now and a seller's willing to sell for it right now. One of the things that you have with the IQD is that there's no secondary market for it. Forex, they're not traded on Forex, and Forex is the largest market in the world. They trade trillions of dollars, and those, the price between the dollar and the yen, or a dollar and the yuan, or any other currency, the Swiss currency or Deutsche Mark or whatever, those are adjusted instantaneously millions of times a day. I mean, it's just like all these transactions are establishing a price between two assets. And one of the reasons why you have in Iraq is something that is static and you have to just wait, is there is no secondary market for it to have a little run up and you can sell it and then buy it back and just trade it successfully. And these other markets that you can do that in, they're great to be in those markets, but it's a game that you got to get really, really good at. Is you got to know when to sell and when to buy. You want to buy low and sell high, but there's plenty of opportunities when there's a secondary market in which you can trade in. You can play that game. Now, what Bob's talking about in part of this call here was all of that is, things are pushed upon us, and we just have to wait, or we got to be playing in a world that we don't really control very much of. Getting into your own business, and I'm not talking about multi-level kinds of things. You're not really growing your own business when you work for someone else or you're building someone else's business. It really just needs to be something that you own. The efforts you put into it are yours. And so one of the things that we're introducing to this group here, and what we spent so much time on trying to find the tools necessary for, and they've been proved over the years that I know of and have been watching those who have done things in the e-commerce world or social media marketing and all these kinds of things. The tools have gotten better and better and more affordable. And so we thought, you know what, Bob and I, we're headed down this way along with Tony to, become our own bosses. We already are, but the point being is we think we can help others do the same thing. And so if you want to spend your efforts and energy into something that you own that doesn't have the same kind of risk associated with it being wiped away in a secondary market, then, come to the Thursday call and you can be part of what we're trying to bring to the table for everybody to at least explore. That's all I wanted to say about that.
I appreciate that. And so my last question, Tony, is you made a statement. You actually made this statement a few times over the years I've listened to. You say the longer they wait, the better it's going to be for as far as the rate. So with that in mind, and with the fact that they've paid off some debt and signed contracts, is your calculation still bring you at 50, 60 cents, or is it closer to $1 at this point now? That they go.
No, it's still 50. It's still 50, 60 cents because, in part, what Ron was talking about. He's exactly right. It is about a secondary market, but there is going to be no market for the dinar until they add value to it. That's why you and I are waiting. That'll create value to it. So and so when they do that, guess what? It'll open it up towards being traded more through the Forex and accepted through the SWIFT system. But nobody's gonna use it. It doesn't matter if it's restricted or not. Nobody's gonna use that currency if it's at a tenth of a penny, right?
Right.
That's what's stopping it. All right. It's not about being good or bad. Is they need to add value to it, and when they do it, this language that's coming out of Iraq is specifically so they can participate in the world markets with their own currency, and they'll double the value of their country overnight by doing that. But you're not going to get in any markets unless you add value to it. So that's what everybody's waiting for. So it goes back to the exact why you and I are taking the risk on buying the dinar and investing in it.
Okay.
So when they add value, it will be accepted. But right now it's a very, very exotic currency, and nobody's using it. Nobody's playing with it. You kind of have to, like I said, what solidified getting in the Iraqi dinar to me wasn't just the idea that it's a opportunity. There's all kinds of opportunity out there. What it was is I was working with the Republican Party, and they all had it. Almost everybody at the top had it, and not only that, but they all considered it. Nobody knew when it would revalue. That's where I got that term, the shoebox investment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I got it from them. I didn't come up with that. I got it from them. They're like, look, it is an opportunity. It's something that it's coming down the road, but right now there's no window. And then nothing was said for the longest time. And then all of a sudden the CBI started talking about, they started getting loans from the IMF. And they started talking about how they want to get their currency above $3. And IMF said, yeah, we can help you do that. And then the language started coming out from the CBI, specifically in response from the Ministry of Planning and the Ministry of Finance, in conjunction with all those institutions within their parliament. They want to add value to the currency. And I haven't heard one thing otherwise. I've never heard anything from people who have the authority to pull this off to say anything otherwise.
All right. Thank you all.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I see somebody on here that says guest, and I have no idea who you are, but you keep popping up here, so speak.
Bob, this is Jim Walter. Can you hear me?
There you go. Now I know who you are, Jim. Go for it.
As you know, I became a member of Rocket and Rich pretty early on.
Yep.
And I haven't really done anything. Life's been a little crazy. I was just talking with my daughter the last day or two, who is very interested in getting into e-commerce. I know this is not a multi-level market or anything like that. Would she need to get her own account? Is there some way she could get it that, with me or something?
It is so totally open. Just be there Thursday. Bring her with you, okay?
Okay. She may be on her own. I've got a meeting on Thursday, so I won't be able to be there.
There's no limitation to the people who can attend Thursday. Members, not members, it doesn't make any difference. The thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to introduce you to all the things that we have found. You guys have no idea of how much research has been spent figuring all this stuff out and then presenting it to you. It's just like people don't realize how much effort I put in figuring out how to save taxes on the IQD. We're talking about years of getting things straight to make sure that that's going to happen the way this needs to happen. It's the same thing here. There is a lot of research that has gone into this and finding the answers, and your daughter is more than welcome to attend. It won't be a problem at all. I'll have in the email when it goes out here shortly this evening, it'll have the same link that we're using right now, okay? And should you just call in, get in, we'll love her.
Great.
We'll take good care of her, Jim, I promise.
All right, I appreciate it.
All right, who's next?
Hey, Bob.
Holy cow.
Bob, can you hear me?
Yeah, Martha, you are super loud.
Oh, sorry.
Let's try that.
Okay. Question. Has the dinar ever been traded on Forex?
No.
Never.
Not that I'm aware of.
So when it had a value of $1, $2, $3, who was trading it?
You mean clear back in 1971?
Well, even in the 80s, even in the 90s, even in, yeah.
That I do not have an answer for. Tony, you got anything on it?
No, it wasn't traded. The Forex is something that's new. It's not an old. I don't think it was around back in those days.
The Forex.
And remember,
okay.
Yeah, remember back when the Forex first started, it was just the top end currencies on the planet. It wasn't like every currency on the planet that people trusted.
So back in the day when it was, let's say, at $1 or $3.22 or whatever number, anything higher than what it is now, how was the dinar? How was it used? How was it used in Iraq or around the world?
It wasn't used that much.
I make a statement about this. The Forex market facilitates international commerce. That's kind of its function. And the U.S. dollar is, it's been telling us it's dominant. Everything's kind of measured against it, including the dollar is measured against the dollar's index. Okay, and so it's just a means by which the world economies can facilitate trade. Well, as Tony's been teaching us, world trade is relatively new. I mean, this whole international trading like we do right now with all the treaties and everything else, prior to that, you really didn't need a Forex market to facilitate world trade. Okay, just one comment, and then Tony, go ahead.
No, I appreciate that because that's exactly it. I think people think that the Forex is something that's been around forever or something, and it hasn't. That's why when the British ruled, you used the British pound. When Spain ruled, you used the British silver. And we created the Bretton Woods systems, what created the modern-day trading markets, and so everything was based on the dollar. So there was various ways that you can convert your currency to the dollar, and then from the dollar you are on the international, you can trade internationally, because that was the safest currency, because the United States backed it up. But that's it. I mean, but now you know why. Now you know why Iraq doesn't really mind being backed up by the U.S. dollar or selling energy for the U.S. dollar, because that's how you do trade. But they want to get out of that because the systems have advanced. There's other currencies on the FX, and there's other ways to do international trading. You don't need to be just in the U.S. dollar. And that's what they want. They want that independence, and it's going to come.
Well, one of the other things that is still confusing to me is it seems like for the last several years, it's been, well, they need to diversify. All they've got is oil, and they know it. And we all remember when oil was at $26 a barrel not so long ago. And now all of a sudden it seems like we're going, well, wow. They've got oil. That's all they need. So the story seems to have changed. So which way is it?
No, it hasn't changed. They have a commodity that backs up their currency, but they still need to diversify. You
What
need
would
to
they diversify into?
They get into the international markets, add value to their currency, and they could double the value of their country's value. None of that's changed. That's not a different story. Right now they're stuck in the U.S. dollar, which is fine, but their country would be worth more if they added value to their own currency and still use the dollar. Their wallet's being restricted. Iraq is restricted. They're restricted by sanctions. They're restricted by you can't use their currency in the SWIFT systems. They're restricted. They want to get off that restriction.
But they are the ones that are still restricting themselves.
No, they're not. No, they're restricted on that. That countries will not accept the Iraqi dinar because they need to add value to it. All right? And so that's the problem, right? So the United States has them hooked up to the U.S. dollar. They want those dollars, and we'll restrict them if they start buying stuff that's on the restriction list with the dinar. So it's complex, but they need to diversify. That's the main reason they want to add value to their own currency. So to give you an example, it's like, okay, let's say if Iran has influence on them adding value to their currency, well, they'll go out and buy stuff that's on the restricted list, and then everything will be banned from Iraq. That's the type of stuff that people are kind of projecting and what they're looking at.
So when you say diversify, maybe I've been completely misreading it or misunderstanding. Are you saying diversifying in that they will have something other than oil to import, or you're saying no, they will be able to participate in worldwide markets because their currency is now worth something?
They will be able to make profit from oil, and they will be able to diversify and put that money in different markets so they're not a one-market country. They can get in real estate. They can get, it doesn't matter. They can get in the information, the Internet of Things. But but to get into that, they're making money off of selling oil. But they need to diversify. They need to get out of being completely oil. That's so exactly. Saudi Arabia. Okay. That's what Saudi Arabia does. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what's holding them changing the rate? Roger, I know you've been patiently waiting. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. Two things. As far as my understanding is, they have a lot of projects going on over there. How do they end up paying, for instance, like the Port of Far that they're building out? Why wouldn't they change their rate to have their country worth more money so that they could build out these projects quicker?
Well, right now they're making enough money in U.S. dollars to do that stuff. They just are.
So why would they want to change? Why would they want to change then? They need to
get out of it. They need to get out of it, but they can't just get out of it anytime they want because they don't want to piss off the West. They got to be able to do this correctly, all right? So, we've had our military in the Middle East for the longest time, all right? So we want to pull out. Remember what I talked about earlier, that it's like, we want to create Fortress America and let these cheese dicks and ready. If you guys want to have World War III, you go right ahead and do it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we don't want to leave and completely destroy everything that we built. So how do we control Iraq? We control them with the U.S. dollar. It's a diplomacy weapon. The Democrats are trying to do business with Iran and get Iran to not build nukes and all that stuff. What are we using? We're using the U.S. dollar. And we're trying to get Iran into our markets and get them out of the Russia-influenced markets. So doing business is a form of diplomacy. All right. So Iraq is restricted. They are. And here's the thing. That's why you and I are in the Iraqi dinar. You're damn right. Why wouldn't they add value to their currency?
Right.
That's why I bought their currency, because I know they're going to get out. Sooner or later, they're going to get out. There's going to be no more doors that need to be opened.
But will that also be dependent on Iran adopting the dollar? I mean, don't they have a dinar too, right?
No. It has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it at all.
Okay.
Iran, the question for Iran is from a religious sectarian point of view. They have a lot of influence. There's more Shia than Sunni in Iraq. And that was one of the controversies that, when George Bush Jr. created the coalition, the government coalition, in the 3 states, break up into 3 different parts so that can be controlled correctly. And he said, no, it's just willy-nilly. It's just, whoever, the Sunni immediately lost because I think they're only like 25% of the population. So there's a massive influence because Iraqis go to the same church as the people in Iran. But in the end,
right.
it's not going to change the markets. It's not. It's just like the United States. The United States is going to be on top for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what anybody says. But who's going to rule it?
It's
going to be Republicans or Democrat. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when Shabibi was in the CBI, he mentioned that they wouldn't, at some point, that they wouldn't revalue unless they had a stable government. Do they consider it a stable government today?
I'll be honest with you. That's a good question. I don't know. When he said that, I don't know what he meant by a stable government. Was it from a sectarian point of view? Was it from a financial point of view? I don't know. That's kind of a broad statement from him. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
Security.
There's nobody about to. Yeah, there's nobody about to attack Iraq. There's nobody encroaching on. Everybody's trying to help them. And even though it might be dubious on how they're doing it because Saudi Arabia wants to control or Iran wants to control, there's that going on. But the reason I say that is because I don't think it's the same definition like stability in the West. You know what I mean?
Right. Gotcha.
I don't think it's I don't think it'll ever be like that in the Middle East. Those people are nuts. You don't believe me? I look. There was a guy who was in the CIA for 12 years. This was one of my best friends in Scottsdale. All right? And I asked him, any of these countries, do you have any fear going to war with any of these countries like Turkey or Iran? And he said, no, none absolutely whatsoever. It's like, why? He goes, have you ever seen those people at a bus station get on a bus? They're crawling on the windows. They're getting on the roof. He wasn't insulting them. He loved these people. He actually helped the Kurds. He helped the Kurds fight, stuff like that. He goes, but it's such chaos. He goes, you can't ever think about them the way that the West thinks or how we think. Our type of their chaos sometimes is order to them. You know what I mean? Like, hey, the bus showed up and everybody made it. Yeah, but to us it looks like a damn, like somebody lit everybody on fire. It's a joke. So you can't when they make statements like that. Yeah, I wouldn't hold it to their feet to the fire where you're at Western standards. I think they've been there for a while, even though they couldn't get a coalition government together. But so what? What's that have to do with anything? So the math didn't add up, and they couldn't get a government together. So what? Countries do that all the time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, the United States, it seems like, and not because there's a problem, but the politics goes back and forth in the Congress and the Senate. 8 years it's Republican, 8 years it's Democrat, 8 years it's that seems like chaos to people. To me, that's normal. So I don't see any chaos that the type of people are looking at. I don't think there's a civil war about to start in Iraq or anything like that. I just don't.
So is there some milestone that the CBI is looking at to be able to change the dinar? I mean, it seems like there's nothing holding it up.
Well, I think what it is, and you're exactly right. That's the mystery. Like they from the information that I've got, they can revalue today, and at about 58 cents, which is below what they need to do. But they want to build it up real slowly. They don't want to just throw it out there. If something bad happens, it goes down and nobody will look at it again. They want to build it up slowly. But they can do it today. And why they don't do it, I don't know. That's one thing I don't know. Not only that, but remember I always talked about the their note count? All right? Countries do not put out information about their note count. They don't do it. So when Iraq did that, they made a huge mistake. All right? And since then, there's not been a peep about their note count. I have no idea what their note count is right now. There's no information, none, zip, nada, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. If that's so that's a mystery now. But no doubts, no doubts that they're going to add value to the currency. They haven't, they've been setting up these laws. It's gone slow. Some of it's gone fast. It's gone slow because of the way they put the government together and stuff like that. But they always move forward into passing their laws to where they're compliant internally to be able to do business internationally. Always. They haven't missed a beat yet.
I suppose they wouldn't have spent all that money printing new currency as well.
Well, remember, when you print currency, sometimes you use it as a weapon. Remember what I told you? Ronald Reagan said, "I don't ever worry about our country going in debt, ever. I don't give a shit what the debt is," and it scares people. And the example is Germany after World War I. Germany's like, okay, and it was equivalent today. It was equivalent to like $32 trillion. Germany's like, all right, you cheese dicks want money? You want Deutschmark? We'll be right back. And that's what they did. They went and spent it, and they devalued their own currency, and they paid the debt off. So when the United States goes into inflation, it pisses off China, it pisses off Europe. Why? Because we're paying our debt off cheap. So maybe Iraq is paying their debt off cheap. Who knows? But it's not what people think. Everybody thinks, oh my God, they're mismanaging their money. The United States has not mismanaged its money. I don't give a shit what these these people are so stupid, it's unbelievable. United States, the U.S. dollar is the most advanced, the most sought after currency in the history of mankind. How somebody could go after it or point their finger at it, and the reason I'm saying that, this, the reason I'm saying that is because people don't understand inflation, deflation, and all that stuff and how it fits in. The United States right now, what if we're in part of it is a constructed inflation. We're paying our debt off a lot cheaper than we would at a full dollar, aren't we?
Yes.
You see what I mean? Yeah. So we weaponized our currency. But here's the main thing. When you talk about do you see any senators or congressmen getting out of the U.S. dollar, taking all their dollars out of their account that they get paid, working and they have better information than you and I do? Do you see them going buying gold and silver, jumping ship? Do you see all these countries on the planet, Japan, Russia, Germany, France, do you see them getting out of the dollar? No. Now, how is it some cheese dick somewhere on a site, on a website? It's like, oh, you better get out, but nobody else is doing it. Doesn't make any sense, does it? It just simply doesn't make any sense. And I know I'm going away from your question, but I'm telling you right now, the information about currency out there is wrong. Sometimes Iraq, the value of their currency is down, so they can get ahead in the Middle East. It's cheaper to do business with them. It's cheaper to rebuild. Now, what's that benchmark where they're rebuilt? They're back to normal. Now, not normal to the West. They're not going to have frickin' shopping malls, and everybody's going to be wearing pressed clothes. And it was never like that in Iraq, and it's never going to be like that in Iraq. All right? Or some guy doesn't like another guy, and he's part of a different tribe. We're not talking about modern Western, the modern world here. I don't know what that benchmark is for them. I don't know what it is. But I do know that they've weaponized the value of the Iraqi dinar. I do know that they're restricted on what they can spend using the U.S. dollar. And I know it pisses them off to no end. So are they making profits off the U.S. dollar, selling energy? Yes. Does it help them do some business internationally? Yes. Does it help them do full international business? No. It doesn't. They want to get out and out from any currency that's out there. They want their own currency. And so that's never changed, and it's getting closer and closer. It's not getting further away. It's getting closer and closer.
Hey, on that note, Tony, guess what? We are out of time.
Okay.
All right, folks, thank you very much for being here. Like I said, you'll be getting a copy of this here very, very shortly. I've got all of the post-production work done, so it'll be out of here shortly. Thank you very much for being here, and we will talk to you later.